Welcome back. We've got State Representative Greg Duckworth here with us this morning. Thanks for being here, by the way.
You bet.
How you doing?
Good.
You doing all right?
Nice to
Glad
come back.
to have you here.
Yeah.
Long-term, well-paying jobs. Does that get your attention? Does that get your attention?
It should.
All right. Well, you've sponsored a bill. This is pretty interesting. An offshore wind bill that could bring that to our area. Go ahead and explain to us how this bill would work, Representative.
All right. The thing that's important to understand right now is that, let's just say, for example, there was a utility scale wind farm ready to plug into our grid here in South Carolina.
Okay.
There's really no enabling legislation to allow that to happen.
Gotcha.
The group that's called the Public Service Commission that basically sets our rates and things needs language in the law that allows that to happen, and part of the bill allows that to happen. It's an enabling part of the legislation.
Well, let me ask you this. Could this bill reduce our electric rates?
I don't think it will raise the electric rates, frankly, and it's important to note that the bill, as it stands, would not require subsidies for the wind power to compete in the free market, which is important. I think it's a good thing for ratepayers too, because sometimes you have other types of renewable energies that can come into the picture that require subsidies, and well, who ends up paying the bill for the subsidies? Taxpayers, and that's not good for the overall picture.
Why is offshore wind energy development so important? I mean, for the average person out there at home watching, what does this mean to us?
I think it's interesting to note that here in the South Carolina area, the wind resources offshore, say 15, 20 miles, are quite impressive. And so you basically have a resource out there that's untapped right now. And so as the wind energy market continues to evolve and grow here in the United States, there's no reason in the world that South Carolina shouldn't be a player in it.
Right. And what type of jobs are we talking here, Representative? You said long-term good paying. What type of pay are we thinking here? Or do we know that yet?
Well, the range of pay can vary from job to job. But for example, there are, I believe, 58 companies in South Carolina that are part of the industrial food chain, if you will, for wind energy today.
Wow.
I may have mentioned this before, but in Charleston there's the drivetrain test facility, which is a Clemson and many other people involved with that project. That drivetrain test facility tests next generation wind turbines that are still off in the future, but people from all over the world are coming to the Charleston, South Carolina area to test these next gen turbines.
How confident are you that this will make it through the House and the Senate?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, Trey, but thus far we've had very positive reception. The bill passed out of subcommittee this week, and testimony was given by different stakeholders. You had folks from the electric utilities speaking in favor of the bill. You had people in the research world speaking in favor of the bill. You had folks from the military speaking about it. You had
a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah. So I guess the point is that it seems like the stakeholders are all on board. It passed out of full committee also this week and was read across the desk and is slated to be heard just after furlough, which is a week from now.
All right, well, that sounds promising. No one likes an eyesore. We get plenty of calls about it from our viewers. I'm sure as a representative you get calls about eyesores, and you sponsored a bill that actually does a couple of things. I'm going to go ahead and let you explain it because it's a little complex, but tell me about this. What do you call this bill? I don't want to call it the eyesore bill, but it's a county cleanup, state law. It's a lot.
It is. That's a good way to put it. It's a county cleanup bill. Right now there's a law in place that allows...
State law?
Yeah. Okay. There's a state law in place right now that allows municipalities to come into a property that's, say, run down, maybe basically being ignored.
Sure.
Maybe it's an out-of-town owner that happens to have it. The city can come in and, as a last resort, mind you, ask that homeowner to, or not homeowner, but property to be cleaned up. And if it doesn't get cleaned up, they can place a lien against the property for the cleanup costs. And what it does is basically take the cost away from the taxpayers and put it back on the person that was negligent with that property.
Gotcha. And that sounds great.
And
However,
that's the law that currently exists for municipalities. Presently, counties don't have that same ability. And I was asked not too terribly long ago by the chairman of our county council, Mark Lazarus, if we could look at doing a bill like that for the counties. We've done the same process, bringing in all the stakeholders, getting buy-in from all those to have that same kind of law, but tailored to the county size.
gotcha.
We got that done. Basically, it's passed out of subcommittee, full committee, and has gone to the House floor where it is slated for debate.
All right, sounds good. We've got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back. Welcome back. We've got Representative Greg Duckworth here with us this morning. Thanks for being here. I want to talk about automatic stay. This bill has passed, and for those of you who aren't familiar, I want to give you the short version of it. Basically, when it comes to the environment, there is a bill out there that would make sure that an agency's decision to stop construction is well-founded and complies with state law. Now, how do you feel about this bill, first of all? I know you're an environmentalist. You love the outdoors. I do too. How do you feel about this bill, and what are you most excited about?
I feel good about the bill.
Okay.
And I guess the thing that excites me is it basically really turns the tables a little bit. Prior to this law being signed into effect, anybody could just, for the cost of a postage stamp, essentially hold up a project. And the thing that's interesting to note is that a project has already gone through all approvals before it gets started. You've got to go through stormwater, wetland permitting, and all the other regulations that are out there for example, a road to begin. International Drive is one here locally, but you think of others like down in Charleston with the Boeing plant and Volvo and others. And these projects could essentially be held hostage for extortion money before, and that's kind of what was happening in so many words. This automatic stay law, as it is now, still allows it to happen, that somebody can file a complaint, if you will, or file a stay.
Sure.
But it creates a timeline, so it's not an indefinite problem. Instead of it being something that could potentially drag out for years, as it did for International Drive, there's now a 90-day timeline, and it places the burden on the person that's placing the stay on a project. And I think that's a good thing, because there's still fairness and balance in the process. If there is a legitimate concern, government doesn't always get things right, then there's a mechanism for that to be reviewed and identified, but it doesn't hold things up forever.
Yeah, I was going to ask, this is kind of a big deal, because versions of this bill, they've been held up in the House and the Senate before, and they didn't make it through. I want to ask you, what do you say to the person who says, you know what, I really just don't feel like I want any part of our area, our wetlands anywhere, developed. I don't want the environment messed with at all. What do you say to those people? Because I feel like that was a part of the concern and some of the opposition that came along with this bill.
Well, I think there is legitimacy in impacting sensitive areas, but then there's also legitimacy in the greater good for us as civilization as we continue to grow, and we have to balance those. And it's a true and negotiated process. I would also point out to everyone that's watching today to say this is a big win for Team Horry Georgetown counties, and you've had very strong leadership in your legislative delegation working hard for this bill for the past many, many years. And
I would imagine this would lead to the creation of more jobs as well.
It certainly is not going to hold up new jobs, that's for sure.
That's for sure. Anything else you want to add, Representative, while I've got you here this morning? We don't get to see that much. You've been a stranger to the show. I've seen you one time. What's the problem?
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm glad you asked. There's a project that I've been working on up in District 104 for a period of time now called the Legislative Leadership Initiative. And what it is, basically, it's taking a group of citizens that live in my area up there, and we're basically brainstorming issues that are facing us for the future.
So you're letting the people speak and have their voices heard.
That's right. And then from there we take it to the next level, which is the level or stage that we're in now, which is a think tanking group, where we're coming up with suggestions, researching ideas of how we could maybe address these issues that are facing us. Things like For example, workforce development, transportation, quality of life. And then when this whole process is done, we're going to wrap these issues up into little briefs, leadership briefs. We're going to be issuing these briefs to local leadership, countywide leadership, and even state leadership, just to make sure that the dialogue of these future issues that frankly are sometimes literally right around the corner aren't being pushed to the back corner and it becomes a reactive thing. We're trying to be proactive.
Who came up with this idea?
Well, it kind of was born out of my stress and being overwhelmed when I first came into the State House. You know,
I think it's a brilliant idea, actually, the more that I think about it. I'm not playing politics here, but I mean, just listen to what people have to say. I mean, that is your job as a state representative, and you've just kind of created a platform where you can listen to people, right?
Well, and it's not like it's original idea, but the thing that I think is unique here is that I'd like to take this on a more of a district to district to district, statewide level, and have all my peers in the State House have similar types of interaction with their district members and citizens. And basically the overall goal, the overarching goal, is to basically be able to connect the dots between, say, what's happening here in the PD and how does that interconnect with things happening in the Low Country? How's that happening in the Midlands and in the Upstate? And start to really draw corollaries between the different parts of industry, transportation and things like that, because you know we all kind of have the big picture and we know things like I-73 is crucial to our area, but there are other underlying currents out there that maybe we're missing, that if we start to map these, we can pick them up, and that's the goal of this, big time.
Representative Duckworth, thank you so much. Keep us posted on that, and we appreciate you stopping by this morning.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.